on that note, which I have been an advocate for from the beginning, and this was actually also announced. So we'll talk about both of these a little bit, but it says the Ukrainian pilots in Singapore, because I guess Singapore is also looking at, there's the air show there. Scroll up, Doug. Sorry, you're moving a little too quick for me. So there's political drama for sending Gripen fighters to Ukraine, but the Ukrainian pilots have actually been flying these aircraft. Let me scroll down if you can. So it basically says we're fully aligned with what's put forward by the Swedish government in this matter. Continue to work support with our Hungarian partners. So if it's granted approval, it would be a fairly rapid process to send the aircraft to Ukraine. We're moving in the right direction currently. But what they thought was going to be a quick process has turned into an 18-month ordeal. So there's support to do it. And I've talked about this in the past. Thanks, Doug. We'll get rid of that. I've talked about this in the past. I personally, knowing the F-16, knowing a little bit about the Gripen, I think the newer Gripen, if you could produce them fast enough, that's the problem, right? Production. Anything that's currently being produced, it's hard to, you got the assembly line going. They've got their customers, they've got their partners that they have to support. But in a perfect world, that aircraft is a match for that environment because their doctrine is for, unimproved fields, being self-sufficient, being able to rearm and refuel off of these not unprepared, but roads. It's the European model. The United States, and people have asked me about this because they're like, well, how's the F-16 not? And they're like, well, because our doctrine is based off of we're going to take airfields and we're going to take or we're going to operate using air refueling, and we can reach out and touch somebody because we have the ability to use air refueling and forward bases that are protected by air superiority. So we don't have that problem where we're operating, we take off, and we're suddenly in an engagement zone of a surface-to-air missile or enemy fighters. So for the F-16 and the F-15, it's just not necessary. For this war, where you're so close, and these double-digit SAMs, or even the SA-5, like we talked about earlier, they can reach out and touch you as soon as you're airborne, or they can throw a hypersonic air-to-surface missile across enemy lines into where you're operating. So it is a different tactical and strategic problem that I think the Gripen is suited for, just like the MiG-29, because we had Mace on the other day. The MiG-29's got those doors that open as you get faster that allows more air in, but it also keeps the foreign object debris because that's their doctrine. They're designed for that. The F-16 is not. It is like, driving a low-slung car over a gravel road. The splitter's going to get torn up. You're going to take rock damage and stuff like that because of that big Hoover intake is made for one purpose, and that is put a lot of power, put a lot of air through it, and do BFM and now BVR stuff as it's adapted. So it's just not made for that. The Gripen is, and the Gripen has all of the Gen 4.5 stuff. So it's more advanced than the F-16. It's more advanced than these, Block 15 or Block 20 midlife upgrade F-16s that they're getting. It's a better fit for what they are. It's just they're new, so you still have to produce them now. Gripen C's, maybe, I don't know, but I think a Gripen E is perfect for what they're doing. What do you guys think?
Well, I think you're missing the big point here is that there's a reason why it's the F-16 and not the Gripen. It's because the United States has to look like we're doing everything politically. Like, that's the thing. You're looking at it from an operator standpoint of what fits the theater of operations, right? Like, that is because you're an operator, but that's not what they necessarily care about, because the people making these decisions aren't ever going to fly it. Their butt's never going to be in the seat. They're just trying to make sales and deals and shake hands and pat backs and make deals in the background. That's what this is all about. It's all political, which is why it's a huge cluster that's not going to work. Hey, I got you, buddy. We can get this thing spun up super quick. Don't you worry, says the guy who's never ever flown one of them or maintained one and has any clue about it. He just says, make it happen. But once that deal is over, he walks away. He doesn't care. He looks great.
But who pays for
it? So that's the problem.
Yeah. Who foots the bill? Because if you're building them new, it's not like, because the S-16 is very convenient, right? Because you're, hey, we're not using them anymore. We're just got we just upgraded to the F-35. We were going to sell these to Draken or whatever. But, if you're talking Gripen E, they're still making these. So either somebody has to give them up, which they're not, or you have to redirect your own assembly line, and who's footing the bill? That's direct aid that your country may not have.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, Wombat's right. There's definitely some politics going on here. What's best for Ukraine and what they're going to get are two different conversations. Unfortunately, they're going to get what the politicians determine they're going to get. And I think Wombat's probably right. I agree with Mover and the fact that the Saab is better. I would even argue give them more MiG-29s, an airplane they're already used to flying. Update them. It fits into their logistical system already. I think it'd be easier to give them other countries MiG-29s that are updated, but the U.S. doesn't have any power over that. I don't even know, logistically getting new parts and stuff for MiG-29 would be possible. But I mean, it's kind of like in Malaysia when they brought the Typhoon there to try to sell it to them. I mean, and Malaysia's base was pretty nice, but the Typhoon and like the F-16, you're dealing with like it's like a Formula One race car, right? It just requires like, a really high level of care, and in an environment, in a war zone, that might not be possible. And the F-16 is no good sitting there in the chocks because you can't fly it because your prepared surface isn't prepared enough. And that's a real tragedy for these guys that are, the service members are the service members. They're just taking orders and they're doing the best they can. And it's a tragedy for them to just watch their airplane get blown up on the ground. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's, that's the sad part. And honestly, even in the US, even in the Navy, man, in the US, political decisions have hurt, our fighting forces. It happens. It's not just confined to, 100%. Ukraine in this case. So I think you're right on that.
And there's ridiculous. I mean, you look at what we have, a Charlie Hornet would be better suited for that environment.
Yeah.
Because at least it could handle. I mean, I love the Viper. Don't get me wrong, Uber. Yeah. Like anything I say bad about it is just because I didn't get to fly it. But like, you're right. Like, I mean, dude, that intake, when I think of that and you land that thing on a road, I'm like, good freaking luck, bro.
Well, and that's going to suck up
every pebble.
The landing gear either for any kind of, but so the other piece to this too, I wanted to keep them together, is that they were talking about the Mirage 2000 and they're looking at finalizing a deal to get the Mirage 2000, which I don't know a whole lot about except for what Gonky and I did with DCS. But from what I've seen, it is not as like, what do you guys know about the Mirage 2000 as far as being a bomb truck? I mean, is it going to be able to do the dual role as well as an F-16 or a Gripen, or is it just going to be an air-to-air fighter and that's it? Because
I think it's more.
It's another Delta Wing airplane.
Yeah.
I think the Gripen, dude, is a better choice out of the three, but I don't know.
Well, good news, we're not letting the warfighters make the decision on warfighting. So we're
that's also happening. That's happening in the US too.